In this installment, we're going to be going over the Thursday night football showdown slate on Draftkings between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chef D, and I'm here to give you the winning ingredients for our Thursday night football showdown slate. We have an AFC North battle here between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Hey, I'm back. We are back to our regularly scheduled videos here. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MessNetShetsD. Don't forget about that TikTok at Chef_D91. And don't forget about the Patreon. But here we are currently at the homepage here at 1.46 thousand subscribers. Let's continue to push that forward. Guys, if you're viewing this video and not currently a subscriber, it does not hurt for you to hit that subscribe button right now. Our goal is going to get to be 1.5, and then we're going to push even further. Hopefully we get to 2K by the playoffs, by the end of the playoffs. All right, so that's going to be our goal for right now. All right, now let's get into the injury report. For the injury report here, we're going to start off with the Baltimore Ravens. Both teams have some very, very significant injuries here. We have a big question mark on Devin Duvernay. He had a limited on Tuesday and then a DNP. That does not bode well for him. That's a downtrend for Devin Duvernay. Marlon Humphrey is going to be out, one of their star corners for the Baltimore Ravens. And Ronnie Staley starting tackle. That's going to be a huge loss for the Baltimore Ravens, all right? So we're missing a little bit of a line and a major defender here. But hey, don't forget, the Bengals are missing a lot of key guys as well. No T. Higgins, who's their number 2 wide receiver. No Sam Hubbard, all right? That's really, really huge here. That's the main guy for their pass rush between him and Trey Hendrickson. That's a nice 1-2 punch that they have. But their leader on that D line is Sam Hubbard. Him being out is probably the biggest loss in this entire game here. And then they have, obviously, out is going to be, I don't know how to say his last name, but this is a number 4, number 5 wide receiver in Andre. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. Everyone else is a full participant. All right. So there could be some opportunities here on the Bengals side with Tyler Boyd and Trent Irwin. We'll talk about them. And on that Baltimore Ravens side, there could be some other opportunities for those 3rd and 4 wide receivers, since Devin Duvernay is going to be trending towards being out. All right. Let's get into the captains. Starting off with the captain position, we're going to go all the way at the top here and look at Jamar Chase here. Jamar Chase is going to be in a good position here going up against these Baltimore Ravens without Marlon Humphrey. That's going to be a good thing for him here on the road in the in-division matchup. Usually if we're looking at his normal games against these Baltimore Ravens, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. If we're looking at the past 5 games, which I'm going to bring up to you right now, Jamar Chase, the KP by game log, last 5. That's what we're going to type in. And you'll see that he has 3 games over 20 fantasy points in those last 5. He has a 22.5, 22.6, 23.4. He's going to get fed a ton of targets here. Since there's not going to be any T. Higgins, it's going to be him, Tyler Boyd. Maybe they get in a little bit of work to that tight end position. That's going to be probably rare. But Jamar Chase is going to be fine as a captain play just on sheer volume, all right? Lamar Jackson here. This is a big X factor game breaker. He could do it with his arm. He could do it with his legs. He's playing phenomenally, despite the fact the touchdown numbers aren't super, super high. That's because this offense can run. They can pass. They play defense. There's no big flaw in this Baltimore Ravens team as a whole, okay? He's even rushing very well. He already has 5 rushing touchdowns this year. And the key thing about Lamar Jackson is his completion percentage. He's on a whole nother level. Over 70% in, let's see, he has 80% against Seattle. 66.7 is pretty much very close to 70. He had a 77 against Detroit, 70 against Tennessee, 78 against Cleveland, 71 against Indy, 72 against the Bengals earlier this year, and 77. He is completing at an enormously high rate here. To add that with the upside with the rushing, it's super dynamic. love Lamar Jackson. He's going to be obviously a favorite at that captain position here. Joe Burrow, we're going to mention him. He's going to be moved down to as a flex play. I just want to mention him here. If you feel cocky enough, I'd rather go to the other guys here in this game other than going to Joe Burrow, who's obviously been playing better the past 3 games, but this Baltimore defense is another monster at home. Okay, this Baltimore at home. Earlier in the season, he only had 16 fantasy points, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, all right? They're going to be able to get to him and create some havoc here. So that's why I'm moving down Joe Burrow to a flex play, all right? Joe Mixon can be considered a captain play because he's just super, super consistent. Just one of the most consistent players in fantasy. He's going to get you double-digit fantasy points almost each and every game. He has a streak of touchdowns, 3 in a row against the 49ers, Buffalo Bills, and Houston Texans here. He's going to see work in the rushing and receiving game. That's why he's so super, super reliable for Joe Burrow. There's no one behind Joe Mixon. There's no worry. Like him as a play as a whole, and you could consider him as a captain as well. All right, so we'll throw him in that mix just off pure efficiency. As we continue to go down, Mark Andrews, he's going to be your top pass catcher. He has played very well against this team here in the Cincinnati Bengals. If we're looking at earlier this season, he had 15.5 fantasy points, got in the end zone. That's what you're expecting from him. And not a crazy year for Mark Andrews this year, but definitely something very, very solid. And he's averaging 14.6 fantasy points per game. So Mark Andrews is going to be on our list as captain play as well. Then a final captain play is going to be the running back position here in Gus Bus Edwards. They have a little stable here of running backs for the Baltimore Ravens, but the lead guy here is Gus Edwards. He's already exploded so far this season. In week 7, he had 21 fantasy points. Week 8, he had 29.4. In week 9, he had 17.2. He has, look how many touchdowns he has. He has 7 touchdowns in the past 4 games. Gus Edwards is very, very efficient, running very well in the red zone. They're leaning on him to get the ball in the end zone. And that's what's taking a little bit away from all the passing touchdowns from Lamar's, because Gus Edwards has 8 touchdowns already this year. Very, very good from him. And the guys got Keaton Mitchell. They got Hill as well, Justice Hill. There's a lot of running backs here. Nice mixture that they have with Baltimore. Those are going to be our featured captain plays. Let's move on to the flex plays. Right now, on to our flex plays. Some key guys we can look at that hopefully they should have some low ownership here. We're going to start off with, the guy that's not going to have that much low ownership is going to be Zay Flowers. He's going to be in the middle. This is right now, technically the number 1 wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens that Lamar Jackson is thrown to right now. He's seen a little bit of a downturn the past couple weeks. In week 8 and week 9, we saw a little bit of a boost there against Cleveland, 5 for 73, 12 fantasy points there. He only has 1 touchdown. He's getting a lot of dump off passes and being expected to create after the catch. That's what we're seeing out of Zay Flowers. He's another consistent guy that should get you double-digit fantasy points in that mold of a Joe Mixon here, because he's going to see a decent amount of targets. All right, he's leading the wide receiver core right now in targets and yards. So if you want to go with Zay Flowers, he's going to be a little bit more higher owned. I have some other guys for you that I'm looking at in this slate, but you can consider the explosiveness of Zay Flowers here in this matchup as a flex play. Let's continue to go down a little bit lower here. Tyler Boyd is going to be someone we can look at. We saw the uptick in targets with the absence of T. Higgins in that game against Houston. 8 for 117 and 12 targets with 22 fantasy points. That game environment leaned towards him getting more receptions against Houston. They've been having a lot of big games when you're going up against the Houston Texans, a lot of high scoring environments here. Now you're talking about in division matchup. It's going to get a little bit uglier here. So I do expect him to get his allotment of targets because we're going to be without T. Higgins. And earlier in this year against the Ravens, he had 6 for 52. All right, so that's something solid. 8 targets in that game. He's been very consistent in the target department here for most of the season. And we can look at Tyler Boyd to come through with a decent amount of fantasy points if you want to go towards him. All right. As we continue to go down, Keaton Mitchell here at the running back position. In limited work, he's been super, super explosive. He's going to have to cash in on a touchdown because he's not getting that much work anyway. He's behind Gus Bus, and he's splitting with Justice Hill between him and Keaton Mitchell. But so far, John Harbaugh has come out and said that Mitchell will be more involved this week during this Ravens matchup against the Bengals. So that's going to be a positive sign. And if you want to fade Gus Edwards and go to Keaton Mitchell, you can. Or if you want to play both, that's how dangerous this running game is for the Baltimore Ravens. Both of these guys can go over double-digit fantasy points and have really solid games. And that's going to be contrarian in your lineup builds if you have two running backs on the same team, because that's how efficient this run game is for the Baltimore Ravens. If we're looking at how the Cincinnati Bengals are against opposing running backs, I think they're middle of the pack. If we look at this, they are 16th in the league, allowing 18.8 fantasy points per game to that running back position. All right. But if you want to go that route, you can consider it that there. All right. Defense and kickers. Before I get to the other gems, I'm going to be playing Baltimore defense. I do not like the Bengals defense because they're missing their leader on that D line. That's going to be a huge factor. And then you got to go up against Lamar Jackson that can create anything out of nothing. So Ravens defense is a love. Both kickers are going to be on the board, especially Justin Tucker. We know how elite he is, and then McPherson is going to be considered as well in our flex plays. And here's some of the gems. All right, we understand Odell Beckham got a touchdown last week. He has 2 touchdowns 2 weeks in a row. He's not getting that much volume. But he does have double-digit fantasy points in 2 of the last games. 2 of the last 2 games, he has double-digit fantasy points. That's a positive sign to see from Odell Beckham. The guy we're going to be looking at, I think this is going to be super low owned. This is the gem here for the flex play, all right? Even if you want to throw him at captain, you can, all right? But this is the gem here of the whole entire slate. I'm putting everything on. Finally, Rashad Bateman to show up in this one. We're seeing an uptick in targets and snap share as well for Rashad Bateman. So we've seen 5 in week 9, 4 in week 10. Hey, you might think that's not a lot, but he is battling with Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, Devin Duvernay. Now we got news that Devin Duvernay is trending towards being out. Rashad Bateman, who's been number 2 in snaps for this wide receiver core here, that's going to bode well for him. I expect him to finally make his mark here in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I love him as a play. He's going to be one of my favorite flex plays because of ownership. Everyone forgets about him, but we remember that he's super, super dynamic. He stretches the field. Look at the average yards per catch for Rashad Bateman, 12.5, 17 yards flat, 18.0. You see he's deep down the field getting these catches, 11.7 against Houston. All right, so when he gets these opportunities, if he can cash in on one big play, that's going to bode well for him. He's getting a crease in the snaps. I'm loving Rashad Bateman at that price right there. Let's clear out these guys. I want to make sure you remember Rashad Bateman in here. As we continue to go down low, Trent Irwin will be a factor for the Cincinnati Bengals here. He got a touchdown last week. This is an upgrade here because T. Higgins is out. They're going to be leaning on some other guys. Trent Irwin is going to be that third wide receiver because they have poor tight end play here. Irv Smith has been very, very bad this year in total. He doesn't even have 100 yards this season, all right? That wasn't a good signing, so we can forget about him. And as we go a little bit further down here, Justice Hill, he's splitting carries with Keaton. We don't need to go towards him because Keaton has usurped him. And he is number 3 in that pecking order. Another wide receiver you could consider, Nelson Aguilar, had some good games earlier this year and is kind of trending down. Rashad Bateman is bumping up Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers. Those are going to be the key wide receivers for this group here. And that's how far we're going to go, all right? We're not going to go past Trent Irwin pretty much, all right? So the 3 key guys we need to have in each and every one of our lineups in our lineup builds. Number 1 is going to be Lamar Jackson. Number 2 will be Jamar Chase on pure volume. And I'm going to throw in my favorite flex play, Rashad Bateman. I'm putting it on there. I'm wearing it on my chest. I'm being proud about Rashad Bateman this week. I'm being bullish. Love him to get a TD in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. All right. So that's going to, once he gets in, if he gets in the end zone, it's going to thrust him up in your tournaments because he's going to be super, super low owned. Guy is being forgotten about because Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham, even Nelson Aguilar. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back with another video very soon. All right. Peace out, guys.